July 9th, 1913, our first baby boy was born. He was the first grandchild of the Sorensens. Of course, they had names picked out for him already, such as Ivan and Charles and Edward. We couldn't decide on a name, so one Sunday while Benny was gone, I took the baby to church and had him named. Aunt Valade Esplin told Benny I had named him Benny Isaiah. He wouldn't speak to me. That evening, Edna Lamb came to visit and said she sure liked the name we had named the baby. She'd never heard it before. He wouldn't ask then what it was until after supper. We were washing the dishes and one of the kids said Burke was a really nice name. Benny told me, "You told me his name was Benny, and I'd made up my mind to get rid of you both. But I guess I'll keep you for a while longer."
It was a good thing they did keep him, for Burke and Beth's lives are a legacy of love and family, filled with fun, hard work, and entrepreneurship. Burke was the oldest of the 7 children born to Benny Hans Sorensen and Harriet Hoyt Bauer.
The first year of school, Burke stayed with my mother, Harriet, and when Burke was around 7 years old, he thought he had to fight every kid in town. I remember the bloody noses and torn shirts. Grandma Sorensen kept Burke for the summer when we moved back to the ranch in April. When Burke was 8, the President of the United States came down to Zion Canyon. Benny took Bert to the dedication. He was quite a ragged little feller. When we went down there, Miss Florence Harding, the president's wife, took Bert and set him on her lap, and she was telling him how she raised her little boy. All he had was this little cap and his old red head and his pants and his patches sewn in the knees. When he was standing there, she said, "You look just like my little boy," and she called him over. He came over and she took that cap off and rubbed his hair and pulled him up on her lap and held him during the meeting. They said the tears just ran down her face because she said he was just like her little boy. Her boy was killed in a war when he was grown. We were quite honored. The next year, Burke spent the last year of school with Aunt Clara and Aunt Lily.
They want me to tell a few things about my school days. Well, I was one of the kind that didn't, unlike some of my kids, I didn't do the best in school. I had a good time. It seemed like it was pretty uphill business for me to go to school. But we did have good times, and they wanted me to tell about our basketball team. Well, I thought we did have a good ball team. We had a center that was about 6'2". His name was Vernon Black. He'd stand there and he could really jump up there. We didn't win any division or anything, but we did have a good ball team.
Elizabeth Heaton was born July 31st, 1916, in Moccasin, Arizona, the second child of 6 born to Edward C. Heaton and Leona Cram.
We lived in a kind of duplex home there in Moccasin. We had a sink, but no bathtub. We bathed in a number 3 tub and heated water on the kitchen stove. It was also what we used to wash with. I guess we didn't have money for some things. I know now, but I didn't know then, that we had a big depression and nobody had any money. We grew all of our vegetables and fruit. We had everything that we needed. Carol Heaton Lamb was the same age as I am. We grew up like sisters. We played paper dolls, which we cut out of catalogs. During the summer, we used to hunt for bird nests. We went all over the ranch looking one summer. We had over 100 bird nests that we used to go check and on almost every day. I helped out around the house a lot doing dishes, washing and ironing. I never did like to iron. When I got older, we used to have candy pulls in the wintertime and play card games like Pit, Rook, and Wink, or played fox and geese in the snow and would go sleigh riding. Then in the summer, we'd have cookouts in the lane almost every night and build bonfires. We'd go to the lane and play games, throw the picket, run sheep run, red man, kick the can, all kinds of games. We used to ride horses a lot too. We'd also climb the hills, swim in the reservoirs, and have lots of fun together. We'd wiggle our toes and make the water really muddy. I was baptized in a big cement tank right by Grandma's house and confirmed in a chair right there after I got out of the water. My dad baptized me. When they were confirming me, I remember just feeling something like prickles on the top of my head like the sun. Remember feeling that way all the way as I was running home.
Beth went to school in Moccasin until her senior year, which she finished in Kanab, Utah. She loved the parties at the fort by Moccasin, especially the Halloween parties. After her graduation, she went to Branch Agricultural College in Cedar City, Utah, and graduated from the LDS Business College in Salt Lake City. While Beth was finishing school, Burke was working, helping his family. He got a job herding sheep and had quite the experience one time out on the Arizona Strip.
I was herding sheep for Charles C. Anderson, Glendale, Utah. It'd been a dry fall like it is nearly every year in the southern Utah. And we had been watering our sheep at what was called the Inglested Reservoir on the Arizona Strip. Christmas morning, it started to snow in the night a little bit. It looked like it was going to snow enough that we was going to be able to stay out and not have to water the sheep. The next day, 26th, it kept snowing. And we thought we were getting out into where the sheep do good. Lots of good feed. The morning of the 27th of December, when we awoke in the morning, we measured the snow on the tongue of the wagon, and there was 27 inches of snow. Well, we made a sad mistake that morning. We considered ourselves kind of snowed in, was going to take it easy. The sheep was in thick cedars, and instead of trying to move the sheep and get out like we later found out we should have done, but we thought in a few days it would melt down and everything would be all right. But instead of that, it just kept snowing. Every day it snowed. And finally it got so that it was hard. We couldn't move the wagon, or the sheep couldn't go, and things didn't look good for us. And finally, after we'd been snowed in for a month, well, the wind blew the snow off of some of the side hills, south sides, and the sheep could move a little bit. Brinkerhoffs, their herd come and hit our herd's tracks, and then they could go. So we let Brinkerhoff let their herd off first. So when we got our sheep off, then they went back, and they had some horses, and with all the horses we had, we was able to get our camp down underneath. Dallas Anderson took some pictures of where they shoveled the snow out to get through some of the drifts. And they was as high as the top of the sheep wagon. When we got out of the snow where the sheep could get a little feed, well, we counted them. We was out 400 head of sheep. So when the snow crusted, well, I was going to walk back up to Brinkerhoff's sheep wagon and stay in it and see if we could find them sheep we'd missed. And when I got back up there, well, it rained enough then that the limbs had flipped back up out of the snow, and there was most of our sheep that we were out was in the dead and been in the limbs of the trees that was laying on the ground, and they was now in the tops of the cedar trees. So I took a picture of this out with a camera that was there in the sheep wagon, and sent it to Bob Ripley, and he used it in his Believe It or Not. I thought that was quite something. As I recall now, in that one little canyon, we lost 4,000 head of sheep altogether, everybody. I don't know, they had several big truckloads of hides that they hauled out of there. That was the highlights of my sheep herding, the losses. And it will always be known on the Arizona Strip as the big deep snow.
In the summer of 1939, a magical moment occurred. The stars aligned and two worlds collided. On July 3rd, at the famous outdoor dance pad at Three Lakes, Burke and Beth met for the first time.
She was tall, slim, and beautiful. I finally got up the nerve to ask her to let me take her home. After a long consideration, she did take me up on my request. I tried to be a gentleman. I think I went to take her to the dance the next night, but she would not go. I was herding sheep and had to go back to the herd.
I went with Burke a few times the summer of 1939. He was getting ready to go on a mission. He came in August to be interviewed. We went up on Cedar Mountain that afternoon to Webster Adair Sheep Camp. We had supper with him. Burke came home from the sheep herd in December, and we dated 2 or 3 times during the Christmas holidays. Before he left to go on his mission in January of 1940, he asked me to wait for him. I told him I wouldn't wait, but if I was around when he came back, I would see what would happen.
Burke served from 1940 to 1942 in the California Mission. He kept a journal and wrote many letters.
I couldn't help crying when I had to leave home. I was ordained to 70 by Rulon S. Wells and set apart by George Albert Smith. I tracked it a lot. I always enjoyed getting a letter from Beth. My companion and I started recording some of our songs. I think I will be a movie star sometime if I keep improving.
I worked a couple of months for Procter & Gamble. When they first put Drift on the market, we went all over northern Utah, clear down to Nephi, to Wyoming and Idaho. We had little 12 packages of Drift, a soap product, and sold them door to door. We had a little speech we had to say. One lady came to the door and said, "Didn't you know I was downstairs ironing?" I gave her a package of Drift anyways. In the summer of 1941, Carol, Ramona, and I had fun traveling the country. We went to some of the parks, to Navajo Bridge, Lee's Ferry, and several other places. I was still around in February of 1942 when Burke came home from his mission. In March, he went back to Henderson, Nevada. He sent me a diamond. On the 4th of April, 1942, we were married for time and eternity in the St. George Temple.
Burke and Beth had 9 children: Lee, Dallas, Jacqueline, Lillian, Claudia, Harriet, Mac, Mavis, and Elizabeth. They lived, loved, and worked together to support their family and community.
I love those dear hearts and gentle people who live in my hometown. I love those dear hearts and gentle people who'll never ever let you down. They read the good book from Friday to Monday. That's how the weekend goes. I've got a dream house I'll build there one day with picket fence and rambling rose. I feel so welcome each time that I return, till my happy heart's laughing like a clown. I love those dear hearts and gentle people who read the good book from Friday to Monday. That's how the weekend goes. I've got a dream house I'll build there one day, with picket fence and rambling rose. I feel so welcome each time that I return, till my happy heart's laughing like a clown. I love those dear, dear hearts and gentle people who'll never, ever let you down. They live and love in my hometown.
They stayed out at the sheep camp, ran a cafe, and ran their own trash for cash business. Burke worked for Kaibab driving a logging truck and supplemented his income by selling everything he could think of: posts, Christmas trees, meat, until he started Trash for Cash. Beth worked for the town of Orderville as a secretary, at Valley High School, and as the main bookkeeper for all of Burke's ventures.
We have a lot to be thankful for. I am happy because we are all well and able to thank God for His goodness to us. I believe all the family is trying to live a good life. They are trying to live as the church says they should live.
I have a family tree with branches by the dozens. I have grandpas, I have grandmas, I have uncles, aunts, and cousins. When it's reunion time, no matter what the weather, it is such a happy day when the family gets together.
Burke passed away July 28, 1982. He had gone all over town that morning visiting and checking on his garden, and came home to take a nap and didn't wake up. There had been very little rain that year, and that afternoon it began to rain. It rained hard and flooded. Some think that Burke may have had something to do with that. The funeral was held on Beth's birthday, July 31st, 1982.
I am learning a lot and really reaping the harvest of someone's hard work. We will have 3 baptisms in September. I have helped teach all 3 of them. I'm getting along better than I thought I might. I am sure the Lord is looking after me. It's a good life.
Beth learned to play the violin by going to the elementary and high schools and playing with the students that were being taught by Mrs. Lamb. She also taught herself Spanish and held group lessons in her home.
It's about the same thing every day: quilting, extraction, feeding chickens, splitting wood. My violin lessons are fun. We are going quite fast. I can play Mary Had a Little Lamb. I still slide the bow down the strings. Mrs. Lamb is a great teacher and puts so much time in to help everyone.
Beth was very adventurous. She loved to travel and was always ready for a road trip. In February of 2002, she fell and broke her hip, and 7 months later, at the age of 86, she climbed to the V. She was always determined. Her pride and joy was her 9 children and 41 grandchildren. She loved it when they came to visit, even after she couldn't remember their names. You could always tell that she knew you belonged to her, and that she was very proud that you were hers. Beth passed away the morning of May 30th, 2007.